Welcome back to the Hockey Shop Source for Sports. I'm down here in Goalie Utopia with Cam Matwib, and as you see, we are surrounded by chest protectors. This is the safest place in the store right now. But what we wanted to talk to you about today was not any particular brand. We wanted to talk to you about fit. We got Cam. He's got tape measures. He's ready to go to get us set to be in the right size. Before we start sort of walking, suiting me up, playing dress up. I love to play me some dress up. Everybody that remembers Mr. Dress Up in his tickle trunk. Our audience remembered it, Cam. They knew. They sent notes. They knew what I was talking about. Just because you're too young. Let's go with some of the key. What are the most common mistakes that goalies make when they're buying a new chest protector, especially if they're doing it online?
Go too big. Yeah. Bottom line, that's it. You don't want to be as big as possible anymore. I mean, you do want size in it, obviously, but we want to keep your mobility, your movement. Obviously, going with too big of a chest protector, which we'll show in a little bit here, can definitely negatively affect that movement and that feel that you're looking for on ice. So, key things: measurement on top of, as a baseline, what you had before is a great start, but might not necessarily be the answer in terms of for sizing for your new one.
Is that because models change, the sizing changes with?
Models change, even brand to brand, even within its own brand changes. Generation 1 might not be the same as Generation 2, so there's a lot of different factors that come into play.
I can relate to the too big thing. Always just used to go with extra large by default. If you're not cheating, you're not trying, wanting to look big. So let's do it. Let's put some of these on. Show us the key measurements. I'm guessing some of them are arm, some of them are going to be in shoulder, and let's figure this thing out.
Let's do it.
All right, where do we start with the measurements? I don't want Joey Tribbiani's Taylor here. Let's keep her above the waist. What are we measuring?
Okay, as much as I wanted to go for your inseam there, we're now going to talk about arm length. So a great starting point at home, ideally, if you do have a soft tape measure, this is best for the measurement. If not, a hard tape measure can be used, but it's obviously a little bit more difficult. Ideally, someone else helps you with this too as well, so that way we can get a really accurate measurement. So first one I'm going to be looking for, it's a little bit different. You see a lot about arm span, fingertip to fingertip, wrist to wrist. I'm obviously not as concerned about fingertip to fingertip because your chest isn't coming all the way to your fingertip. So I'm more importantly wrist to wrist, or in this case, I'm actually going to use a wrist to shoulder measurement. So with this, I can compare this to a chest that I currently have on the wall and know approximately in terms of for arm length where Kevin should line up. So right now, what I'm getting at, right to his shoulder, to wrist, or just about 20 inches.
Now, do you start this on the wrist based on personal preference? Some guys want it right down in the cup of the glove. Some guys want it a little higher. Should you be tying personal preferences into where you start that measurement point up to the shoulder?
Correct. To a bit of a degree, yes. Now, there is obviously going to be a line. You don't want your gloves being pushed off your hand. So we want it enough up on you that you're not going to be having that interference.
So probably around you started around my watch line. That's probably a good idea.
Exactly. Now, everyone has a little bit of different tolerance for what that interference could technically be considered. Personally speaking, I like quite high up on my wrist because I really don't like that chest interfering. So I would actually probably start a little bit further up past watch to be able to get my measurement, for example.
And the key for Cam when he's measuring himself is to, like you said, have somebody else do it, because when you do it yourself, it's a little bit tricky. But also for Cam, never to measure his arms when the check comes after dinner, because the arms get really short. We call them alligator arms, and he struggles to get to his wallet. So make sure you're measuring when it's not. The check is not.
All right, back in business here. So this Axis 2 chest, it is a size large. So I have already...
I want extra large, Cam.
Not yet. So I've already pre-measured this. I know that this arm is actually 19.5. I measured Kevin at 20. Exactly. So in theory, we should have about a little bit higher than past his wristwatch on this chest for his arm. Now, the nice thing is about the Axis 2 chest, and a lot of the chests on the wall, adjustable arms. So I have 3 inches of playroom here, potentially up or down, so I can help to dial this in. When shopping online, this is a big help, especially when selecting something blindly, adjustability. This gives us a chance to make a slight mistake, potentially in the measurement by a couple inches either side, and still be able to correct it via the adjustability. Some chests don't have Velcro arms like this anymore. So definitely pay attention. Our descriptions call that out, especially online. So you can give us a call. We can talk about it, things like that. However, enough talk. Let's get this on you.
Okay, so where are we?
Okay, so now that Kevin's got the chest on, he's got his arms out. I can see that they are sitting a touch long at the moment. Hold them out. This is where our adjustability lies. So once again, I was talking about that travel space that I have here. I'm going to pull these up a little bit on them. Set it right about there. And what do we have? Elbow still fitting in, and right at about wristwatch.
Right about wristwatch. Now, the beauty there is, personally, I like it to go a little bit past that. Like, that to me feels a little bit short. Again, just personal preferences. So I'd probably adjust it back and have it a little bit longer. So again, the importance of adjustability, especially if you're buying online, it just gives you a little bit of wiggle room, not just in terms of being outside the measurements, but also in terms of personal preference. Again, to me, I'm going a little longer on that.
So now, we've touched on arms. We haven't touched on body, which is also equally as important. So where should this chest be sitting regarding neckline, how low it's going down on his torso? Obviously, this one's past his waist a little bit. This is where a little bit more preference is going to come into play, whether or not you tuck in your chest, leave it untucked. Somebody who leaves their chest untucked was going to probably want it a little bit longer, especially in the front of the body. Somebody that tucks it in, probably a little bit shorter, so we're not having that same interference. Citing the Axis 2 chest in particular, we know that this can fold upwards and out of the way, so we can have that ability to kind of do both. Some chests do have Velcro removable pads, especially around that lower belly portion, to help with either extending it or shortening it, depending on. So if I was to take my magical measuring tape and take a measurement all the way down, and I'm going to use, for example, right here as our point, just due to that adjustability on the chest, I know that that's roughly about 20 inches. So if Kevin was to take off his chest then, and then measure his torso from basically his bottom neckline point to where his desired height would be in terms of where you wanted to line up with his torso, in theory, we'd be coming up with pretty close to 20 inches.
So just a coincidence, those two measurements are the same. These are all measurements you can find online when you're shopping online in terms of
correct.
How
Some of the
chest...
torso measurements aren't always there, so that might be having, once again, this is why we're here. This is why we have a phone. Give us a call, 604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790.
So the two key measurements are going to be shoulder to wrist and sort of, I'm guessing, sort of collarbone, like right in the middle, Adam's apple, just below your Adam's apple.
A little bit lower than that. I was
just right where the bone starts.
Correct.
Down to wherever you want it to fit personally on the chest.
General rule would be right at about
belt line. Unless you're me and you pull your pants up like you're 90 years old to your chest. Then I can help you, but only so far. Can't help you. Any other keys? We've seen some chest protectors have more of a mechanical style arms where, yes, we can adjust the length, but the key is really where the elbow sits in terms of the elbow being right in the elbow floater in the middle spot.
Correct.
What are some of the other things we need to look for when we're fitting it?
So once again, there's still some factors. So we can give you like a general basis. So again, once it like this more so for that.
There's a lot of personal preference involved in fitting
exactly. And shopping online is always difficult because you're only looking at something. You can only get such a visual, aspect of it. We don't get that true touch and feel until product A shows up at your house. So again, key things when you're trying it on, you're double checking on measurement, how it's integrating with your pants, depending on, again, tuck or untuck. Key features, again, also shoulder floaters versus mask. One thing, like, again, touching on here, but it is quite important, how that integration of that mask is going to sit with the said chest protector. If you do have something with a longer chin that's closer in tight in the body, something like this, potentially, you could get caught in between those two shoulder floaters.
Well, don't forget these shoulder floaters are also another thing to look for in your fitting are the shoulder floaters adjustable?
Exactly.
These ones can be moved. If you find that mask is interfering, you're not getting, good sort of head movement and visual tracking. This is a unit where you could spread it out and make it go wide.
Exactly. And that's specifically citing this one in particular. You know what? On most chest protectors, there is going to be some sort of adjustment for that. So keep that in mind. But again, something to consider. If you're buying something with very high shoulders, you could be experiencing that interference. So just be mindful in terms of what you're looking for. That's more so the point.
Anything else in terms of fit? I mean, this fits around the belly.
Some chests are going to have more wrap than others. Once again, preference comes into mind. we hit it off the bat in terms of fitment wise here for Kevin. So if you want to say shopping online, obviously I would be recommending him a large in the Access 2. Does happen to fit him quite well.
But I want an extra large, Cam.
Well, tell you what, why don't we have a quick look at what that looks like on you and the reasons why I wouldn't recommend it.
All right. Magically dressed up. Boom. I'm in the new stuff. This is the extra large that I came in wanting, Cam, because I wanted bigger and profile and look big.
So I see issues off the bat, but you tell me what you're feeling.
Interestingly enough, I feel like their movement is more restrictive. It's gathering in spots.
Yes.
I'm guessing that's because the arms are too long. Interestingly enough, too, we talked about the elbows fitting in the right spot. My elbows don't settle right into the perfect part of this elbow cap, and that affects some of my mobility, whereas I was able to take the large and move around quite naturally. I find there's a little more resistance in spots in the bigger unit. And funny enough, I put it on and thought, this isn't going to be that different. But when I started trying to move around in it, it definitely didn't move as well as the chesty that fit me properly.
And this, once again, kind of highlights that importance. It's like mind perceives that, hey, this might work, but all of a sudden you actually get it on, and physically it's like, hey, I can see where this is starting to interfere and stop me from making those movements that I want to make.
Well, and the other thing too is we've got the bicep protectors, but as soon as the arm's too long, those bicep protectors are pushing up into my armpits, and I can, again, if I feel that now, I'm guessing once I get out playing and pushing and it starts coming up and pushing on a regular basis, there's going to be a lot of rubbing, uncomfortable, potential for, bruises, but no, definitely not.
Well, your elbow not in that elbow cap, you go down, it's bad news. That sucks. So we've shown one that fits, one that doesn't fit. What if you fall in between some of the measurements? Hey, there is an option for you. There's always the custom route. 3 companies right off the bat, Bauer, Vaughn, and Bryant's all offer a custom chest protector. We do have the ability to size up that arm slightly different versus the body length. Large body, medium arms is a very, very common request. Easy enough to do. These are all things that can be done on these custom forums. If you do want to talk about custom chests, just give us a call, 604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790. We can talk custom chests. It doesn't have to be me. Any of the guys down here will be able to get you set up and point you into the right direction.
They will also talk you out of just buying the largest size if they know it's not going to work for you. In this case, for me, I'm a large. As much as I want XL, I'm a large. Cam, I appreciate that's why we come to you for the advice on how to get something that's actually going to work, not just something that I feel is going to work. And that's what we've got here. It looks like a CCM Access 2 large. We'll do the trick for Kevin.
And it blows.
I like the blue.